Hello and welcome to all of you to this online launch event of our recent publication entitled Data Science, AI and Data Philanthropy in Foundations. And on behalf of both philea, Philanthropy Europe Association, and Fondazione Compagnia di San Paolo, we're very excited to present to you all today on this very timely collaboration. So just a brief overview from who you'll be hearing from today. And also you can see also the front cover of our report here, which will be now available to you all and will be posted in the chat of the link. We have with us today Filippo Candela, who is data manager at Fondazione Compagnia di San Paolo and who's been instrumental in driving forward this study and collaboration. We also have with us today Sevda Kulchop, who is a dear colleague of mine and who is also head of research and knowledge development at philea and brings a vast experience of the sector to the study, as well as her keen passion for the topic in discussion, as well as myself, Daniel Spires, and I am a program manager in peer exchanges and knowledge at philea. And it was a pleasure and is a pleasure for me to have contributed to this research, which we consider to be of great zeitgeist. So just a brief kind of overview and agenda of today, which we'll then start get going with after the presentation, with the presentation of the results, sorry. So we will start with my colleague Sevda, who will present an overview of the methodology and sample, before then moving on to Filippo, who will present the first category of the findings, which is internal data related activities. This will then move over on to myself, and I will present on the chapter looking at data science and AI. Then moving to Sevda, who will then present to us all on data philanthropy. She will then present with Filippo on some of the recommendations and findings of the report. And there will then be a Q&A section where we can hear from all of you. So just a bit of housekeeping perhaps, but it would be great to see all of your full names and related organizations in this course. We know who is joining us. We also do invite for all of you to wait for any of the questions or clarification questions for the Q&A section, but we do encourage you to ask any of the questions in the chat at any time, and we will get to these later on in the event. And also just to note that today's event will be recorded and we'll be sharing this with the community also after the event as well. So without further ado, I'm really happy to pass over to Sevda, who will present on the methodology and sample.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's really great to see so many of you at this launch event. And today we are very excited to share insights from our recent exploratory study. We can maybe start showing the slides. Yeah, this is, as I mentioned, is an exploratory study that sheds light on the evolving landscape of data work within foundations. Our journey began with a simple objective, let's put it that way, to understand how foundations are currently engaging with data and to pinpoint some questions that may guide future research. We know that there are several researchers also in this virtual room. So this study was born out of a collaboration between philea and Fondazione Compagnia di San Paolo, each of us contributing a kind of a complementary perspective to enrich the research framework. Compagnia's advanced experience in data work offered a practical perspective for shaping the questions and, of course, also for interpreting the results. On the other hand, philea is a philanthropy infrastructure organization. We are more specialized in the broad analysis of philanthropic practices and their implications for the sector. So with our more like infrastructure lens, we try to ensure that the study captures the diverse realities and the needs of the philanthropy sector. So we conducted a survey from March to May 2023 to gather some insights into foundation practices around data management, artificial intelligence, and data philanthropy. So the survey included questions about the tools, methods, and resources foundations employ in their data efforts. We also conducted some interviews with some of the responses to have more details about the flagship projects that were also shared as individual examples in the report. At philea, we have a community of practice called Data Science Group, and this group brings together data scientists from across European foundations. So we presented our preliminary findings to this group before writing the report. And the discussion with this group helped us uncovering the underlying logic behind certain practices, like why foundations choose one method over another. As a result of this data collection and interpretation and feedback efforts, we have identified which parts of data work within foundations are more advanced, which parts are yet emerging, and the factors also that facilitate or inhibit foundations engagement in certain data disciplines, which we will talk about shortly. As any study, this study also has its limitations, so it's important to acknowledge them. We had a sample size of 24 foundations from Europe, so our findings are not universally representative, of course. So this limitation is part due to the emerging nature of this topic, because data work in philanthropy is an emerging field, and for that reason, our exploration is just the beginning. Next slide, please. So yeah, just let me say a few more words about the sample of the study. The study leveraging the network of philea Data Science Group and then expanded through snowball sampling, targeted emails, and social media, included participants from, as I said, 24 foundations across 12 European countries. And these countries include Belgium, Croatia, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, and the UK. These foundations represent a significant economic force with a combined 60 billion euros in assets and 3.7 billion euros in annual expenditure. So despite the limited representatives of the sample, we can say that the economic significance of the surveyed foundations adds some weight to the insights gathered. This economic size really signals that the surveyed foundations hold some considerable influence and resources that can significantly impact the field of data-driven philanthropy. So this is what I wanted to share about the methodology and our sample. And without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Filippo to share some of the findings from our study.
Thank you, Sevda. Hi, everybody. It's really a great pleasure to be here. First of all, I really would like to thank Sevda and Daniel from philea, because we have done a really good job together, and we are absolutely proud to present to you what we think is the best attempt to evaluate and study the maturity of philanthropic foundation in the field of data. So as Sevda and Daniel presented, we have organized the results of the survey in 3 parts, and the first one is related to the internal activity with data of the foundation that answer to our survey. So Daniel, next slide, thank you. So the first results obviously is the most important. So we decided to investigate the typology, the types of data activities in which philanthropic foundations are involved with their internal data. So the main idea was to try to obtain a snapshot of what is happening in the philanthropic foundation in terms of use of data in different fields. So as you can see on the left of the slide, what we can say is something that that was based on of our expectation. That means that philanthropic foundations are already mature in the in the data analysis, in reporting and data visualization. This was not surprising, but it obviously was good to have this kind of confirmation thanks to the data. And when we move to more sophisticated approach with the data, for instance, the development of innovative solution, implementation of machine learning solutions, or the use of open data, well, we can see that at least now, this kind of more sophisticated tasks are not so frequent, are rare, we can say, or are in some cases outsourced. So there is two different kind of evidence. From one side, we can say, and we will see in the next slides, that the philanthropy foundation are already very involved in the use of the data in basic and in preliminary activities that are the data analysis, data visualization, and reporting. But they are starting also to explore opportunity in the field of open data, and we will talk about this also with Sevda in the third part of the results devoted to data philanthropy, and in development of machine learning solution and so on. So the path is just started. This is a good point. So philanthropic foundation are ready, are working on the data. This is absolutely good. This is not a new topic for foundation, but there are a lot of opportunity that over time foundation could reach. On the right side, we have mentioned three flagship project that deserve to be mentioned also here. By the way, in the report that obviously we suggest you to download and to read, all the things that we are discussing here in 30 minutes, 40 minutes will be absolutely deep in with a lot of critical and professional reflection. So we suggest you to read this because it will be absolutely interesting for you. So very quickly, three flagship projects. The first one is our project of Compagnia di San Paolo Foundation. So we develop a platform with more than 60 dashboards that are today offered to our employees, to our colleagues, to monitor many different kind of activities, granting activities. So we have stored in a data warehouse and then published in dashboards the data of the philanthropic activity of the foundation, but we have also the data of our operations in terms of numbers and so on. So we have attempted through the development of many different dashboards to democratize the access to the data for the entire foundation, trying to transform Compagnia di San Paolo is a data-driven foundation. Then we have other two great projects, and obviously in the report you will have a lot of more information about this flagship project. So the second one is by King Baldwin Foundation, so a project related to the use of machine learning algorithm applied to text analysis. So all we know is that in philanthropic foundation there are a lot of textual data that has a great value, but is also a great challenge for us to try to extract value information from textual data. So our colleagues of Kim Baldwin Foundation developed great algorithm of topic classification and detection to try to tagging all the grants and so on. And the third one is by Paul Hamlin Foundation. So a different approach to the use of the data. So the idea to monitor the commitment of the foundation in the diversity, equity, inclusion through the use of self-assessment and the use of the data. So another way in which data has been used for internal purposes. So as you can see, from one side, using quantitative data, we attempted to obtain statistical information, even if, as Sevda say, the sample is not representative, is small. But at the same time, in the report, you will have also qualitative information of very specific flagship project, and it could be, it's absolutely useful also to create connection among us if someone is interested about a specific project and so on. Next slide. Some additional information about the organization in the foundation. So which are the roles that are more frequent in the foundation? So again, here we have not surprising data. We have a great majority of foundation that have data analysts. So this is in line with the previous result of the high commitment in data analysis and reporting, but we have also data managers, so the different kind of data professionals that are more involved in the management and exploitation of the data, and more specific professionals are less frequent. So we have not so much data scientists or data engineering or data visualization expert. This is absolutely in line with the first result about the fact that philanthropy and foundation are absolutely involved in the data, but in the preliminary basic activities of the data. If we take a look at on the left of the slide, we have some additional information about the fact that half of the sample has a unit that is specifically devoted to data analysis and data management. So there has been a commitment by the foundation to create, also from an organizational point of view, a team completely devoted to this kind of task. And it's still rare, and this is very interesting from a data management perspective, the fact that all the employees are involved in training program dedicated to data skills. So all the topic of data culture, data literacy, it's not so frequent, but based on our knowledge and also our experience or the entire scenario of data management and data, not only in the non-profit sector, this is absolutely in line with what we are observing. One other great example of a project is by Novo Nordisk Foundation. So program of use of Microsoft Power BI tool. So you probably know that Power BI is a dashboarding tool that is absolutely a great tool, as every other kind of dashboard, to democratize the access of the data. And so they develop a data literacy program to spread the skills to be autonomous in the use of the dashboards. Next slide. Just two additional questions about the data infrastructure and the tools. So it's in figure 5, very interesting to note that while we have 9 foundations that have not specific database completely dedicated to a data analysis, so they are probably using just the transactional database in which they collect data for their activities. We have 11 foundations that have databases specifically devoted to data analysis, with obviously some difference. We know the difference, it's not the time probably to discuss this. You will find the reflection in the report, the difference between data warehouse and data lake, so the two different kind of approach in the use of the data. But the lesson here is that almost a half of the sample has developed a dedicated data storage for data analysis and data valorization. This is absolutely a good sign for the involvement and the commitment of the foundation. In terms of data tools, obviously, we decided to put also Microsoft Excel in the list of the possible data, of the possible software that foundation could use, because we know that Microsoft Excel is a tool that is used not only in foundation, but in every organization. This data confirm the fact that Excel is one of the most important tool, but we know, and this is very great, is discussed also in the conclusion of the report, that there is a strong interest in data visualization software, and this kind of results suggest that one of the main needs today for foundation is to make data more accessible, easier to understand, in a best in a way to access easily and in a reliable way to the data. And then we have more specific tools. The proprietary statistical platform and Python and R are tools related to data science, especially on sophisticated data analysis. And so this topic is in line with the fact that in our sample, there is a niche of the foundations that probably are already involved in more sophisticated technical analysis of the data. And so they are using this kind of tools, while it's absolutely rare, but it's normal in the spectrum of maturity that we are going to see in the next slide. The fact that tools that are today used for data integration, data quality, and data governance are less frequent. So the last 3 examples are very specific tools that allow the Philanthropic Foundation to manage better their data. But, and we can go to the next slide, probably these tools are not used because foundations are not ready to be involved in this kind of activities, because, and here in the survey, we asked to the foundation to self-assess their level of maturity in the following data domains. Again, the results are very clear. If you take a look from the left to the right, there is a great perception of maturity in terms of data analysis and reporting and data visualization. So putting together experience and exploration, data analysis and reporting, and data visualization are absolutely in a high level of maturity. Obviously, we are talking about a general sample, so every foundation has different degree of maturity. So we have 13 foundation in data visualization that assess themselves as just in a phase of exploration. And then we are moving to data domains that are more specific and in which the level of experience is lower. So we have data management, data quality, arriving to metadata and data science, in which we have in a phase of exploration or with a limited level of experience. The next slide is probably one of our favorite slide of the report. We are very proud of this continuum, because if you want to take for my section that I'm presenting to you, one take-home message of the internal data-related activities, you can take this slide, in which you can see that together, based on the data of our research in the use of internal data, the continuum of maturity is based on a level in which today the philanthropic foundation are very advanced in data analysis and reporting. They are starting exploring with a high level of commitment, with a certain degree of maturity, the topics of data management and data visualization. They are interested and they are starting to explore with a lower degree of maturity the topic of data science, data literacy, and data quality. And there is not experience so far in the field of metadata. Why we have mentioned metadata at the end? Because if the ambition of a foundation is to become a data-driven foundation in which the data is spread as a value across all the entire foundation, there is a need of democratization of the data, knowledge of the deep meaning of the data, and the metadata is the final point for this path toward maturity. I think I am done. Daniel, is your turn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Filippo. And indeed, I'm happy to lead on with the next category of results, which looks at data science and AI, or artificial intelligence. So what do we mean here exactly? Well, as you just saw with Filippo in the previous section, we looked very much at an internal practice lens to what extent foundations are using data science and AI. So with this section, we wanted as a whole to look at the adoption of these disciplines, including the external element. As an infrastructure organization, and as Septa mentioned at the beginning, we were somewhat familiar with some of the European-based foundations activity when it came to data science and AI. But with this survey, we wanted to get an even wider, but also broader understanding of what foundations are doing in this area. So immediately starting with the first question, as you can see on this slide, we asked the respondents of the survey immediately on their engagement with data science and artificial intelligence, which 48% of respondents who answered this question engaging in some form. And immediately we see an even split between those that do and those that do not. But to break down these results even further, we can also see a distinction between the internal and external activities here. So for example, we can see that 4 responded that they only engage with internal activities, so that this could be, for example, the analysis of the data of the foundation, but also support for decision-making by the governance. And then we also see a split between those who only do external activities, and this can take the form of calls, grants, and also programs, with also 4 then doing both internal and external activities. So why do we observe this? Well, we see that internal projects often require significant internal resources and expertise, but also having kind of very clear objectives as to how they form an overall part of the strategy. But on the contrary, on the flip side, external engagement often takes the form of assistance to partners through support through programs as grants, as you can see here. And this is an easier route, we believe, for foundations to be active in these topics without having this kind of internal capacity. And for those who do not engage at all, the reasons for this can vary. This could be from taking an active decision not to engage in AI or data science at all to limited financial capacity. And we find that many of the foundations are very self-aware when it comes to the limited capacity, when it comes also to engaging with data science and AI. And this is especially in cases where there are, often smaller teams, but also units. Also, we believe important to note from this results, and also what was signaled in some of the answers, was kind of a clear and kind of decisive action by the boards not to consider engaging with AI or data science and not seeing this as a core mission of the foundation. So any kind of activity here would be viewed as a non-core activity. And of course, this does not aid when it comes to kind of the direction of building skills, but also knowledge within the foundations as well. Also, we find important to mention is, and what has come to prominence recently in the kind of wider societal kind of field, if you like, is the environmental but also ethical concerns that surround AI in particular, and whether some of the foundations should consider pursuing data science and AI activities. AI and data management, for example, the infrastructure related to this is very power or energy hungry, and this can contribute indirectly to higher greenhouse gas emissions. In addition, as regards kind of the ethical concerns, there is kind of a growing societal awareness of how AI in particular can also perpetuate and exacerbate these inherent power imbalances as well. But overall, what we would like to emphasize with this question, but also widely, is that we find that the philanthropic sector does have this kind of keen willingness to collaborate, but also share experiences and embrace new strategies. And we have seen this, as aforementioned with SEBDA, in the data science group that we have at philea as well. So moving to the next question, and we wanted very much to build upon the previous one, and we wanted to explore more specifically how foundations support data science and AI activities with external partners as a kind of philanthropic purpose. And as you can see with figure 9 here, we see a very mixed picture of what foundations are doing. And to put this in a very straightforward way, as we also note in the report, foundations simply find numerous entry points to experiment, but also apply data science and AI. And as we see here with the two top kind of results, if you like, these are what we found to be from this question the most common ways. And that is with 5 responding kind of direct financial support to specific institutions that apply data science and artificial intelligence methods, but also 4 indicating capacity building programs to empower the competence of specific institutions. So doing these 2 ways can often be a more feasible way of supporting these 2 fields rather than developing autonomous data development programs, for example. So as also Filippo mentioned in his section, we also have flagship projects in this section as well. And as you can see with flagship project number 5, we're very thankful to the Chiesi Foundation for providing us with more detail on how with their Impulse project, which is improving quality and use of newborn indicators, how they are assisting organizations with the systemization, but also efficiency in collecting data across 4 sub-Saharan African nations. Also, to note some of the other results in this figure 9 as well, we see that 3 foundations have indicated that they are engaging with calls for data science or AI projects. Investment in these AI initiatives can encourage the development of this area and also support funding that for this innovative AI that might not otherwise be available to these certain initiatives. An example of this can be found with flagship project number 6 with Compagnia San Paolo Foundation, and these AI calls were launched by the foundation in 2020 with the aim to very much support these research projects aimed at advancing scientific knowledge in the field of AI. Noteworthy also in this result is that 6 have indicated that they do not engage at all. And this kind of mirrors slightly the previous results that we have seen presented and the split that we often see. In response to these kind of results, we also want to mention that there are organizations such as the European AI Fund that advocate for the use of ethical AI in Europe and are working effectively to harness the power of philanthropy in this area. And this also does this by elevating the perceived and important role of civil society in policy and public debates on the topic. So overall, from this section, as we see here, we encourage all of us to approach this question with nuance and also to understand kind of the diversity also of the European philanthropic sector and how this manifests in data science and AI, but also how the national landscapes very much differ across Europe. And importantly, whilst we are encouraging foundations to be present in this area, we also want to emphasize that a one-size-fits-all approach is not what is going to work best. Moving on to the next question, which here we're talking about, I guess, philanthropy in more traditional terms. So it's often good to get an immediate picture in financial terms, but also recognizing that this is not the only good indicator. So out of the 9 that answered this question, we can see that 5 responded that they are spending in 2022 more than €1 million on data science and AI projects, 1 between €500,000 and €1 million, and then 3 with less than €500,000. So here, of course, there are only a handful of foundations that we have results from, but we want to emphasize that these investments are substantial and do demonstrate the significance of data science and AI in the work of these specific foundations. Moving on to the next question. So, of course, when we consider philanthropic funding and also support, we can often apply a thematic lens to this, of course. And figure 11 here shows from the respondents in which fields data science and AI are used most. And as you can see at top with 13 respondents, or 78% of foundations who responded to this question, research has come out as the top activity. And you might be thinking, did we see this as a surprising result? And the answer would be, frankly, no, because often universities and research centers are key partners for foundations. And we would also encourage kind of future research to look at how research, no pun intended there, can interplay with data science and AI as well. And also noteworthy is to note that 7 also are active in the area of environment, 6 in culture, but also lower down the list, for example, 2 only in education and 3 in healthcare. So now a key question, which probably will gauge the interest of many of you in this room, and this is as to whether data science and AI will increase as part of a foundation's mission over time, what respondents perceived here. And we found, unsurprisingly, that the majority, as you can see here, 18 believe that the answer is yes, which is kind of also fitting in line what we see at the societal level with the rise of these kind of 2 key areas, which are increasingly forming an inherent part of our lives. But also what's kind of important to note here is how this result contrasts with what we see currently, the previous results where we saw more of an even split. So, what were some of the motivations that we found in some of the answers? Well, there was a key belief, for example, that data science and AI will enhance kind of, for example, the evaluation capabilities of programmatic work, but also provide a better understanding of the wider societal needs when it comes to constituencies. In addition, foundations often believe that data science and AI can assist in enhancing the scale of programs, which also comes and brings added layers of complexities and subsequently often evolving needs of their constituencies as well. But as we also previously mentioned, some of the barriers to this engagement can be kind of lack of skilled talent, but also safety and regulation, and also the environmental impact, which kind of leads to my final slide, which looks at the kind of responsible use of data science and AI. So we thought it would be good to emphasize this, and we also do this in the report as well. So you may be aware, or being in the philanthropic sector, that there's often kind of a commentary that foundations are often slower than, for example, the for-profit counterparts in the adoption of data science and AI techniques. But this is rooted in a huge consideration that they do have for responsible adoption. And this is also heightened, for example, if a foundation does receive public funding, as there are often greater expectations to spend funds effectively, especially on grants and programs, rather than experimenting with AI projects. And overall, we are seeing that there is this trade-off forming, which is between innovation, which often Philanthropy kind of prides itself on, but also the effective and responsible use of resources. In addition, we often see that foundations, quite correctly, are often waiting for legislative packages to see what rules they will be bound by, and in particular on the European continent, there is much anticipation, of course, around the EU's AI Act, as many of you will know. So this kind of concludes my section, and I'm really happy to pass over to Septa, who will present on data philanthropy.
Thank you so much. Yes, data philanthropy represents the third and the last group of findings from this study. Next slide, please. So what does it mean, first of all? Data philanthropy refers to the practice of sharing and using data for the greater social good, often by private agencies. So traditionally, the role of foundations in data philanthropy has been underexplored, despite their unique position. But we believe that foundations really possess access to vast amounts of data through their grant-making activities or research or partnerships. So our study identified various ways in which foundations engage in using or sharing data to address societal challenges, issues. So the first is that half of the surveyed foundations used open data from public institutions to understand their communities better and make strategic decisions. For example, Fondazione CRC is developing this open data platform for community access to social and economic indicators. Again, here it may be useful to mention what open data is. Open data refers to data that is made freely available to the public by private organizations, governments, or individuals, with the intent that it can be accessed, used, or shared by anyone without any restrictions. So moving to the second area, foundations also act as enablers or initiators of programs or projects centered on using data for the common good. So this includes participating in data ecosystems and networks at European level, global level, or acting as catalysts for hubs where data from various institutions converge. As a third area, several foundations support the creation of think tanks or networks of data experts to use data for social good. Again, an example could be Data Tank. This is a think tank, and Do Tank in Brussels focused on using data for community well-being, and this is supported by 4 different foundations. A minority of foundations engage in using private data for philanthropic purposes. The reason could be because it's a complex and ethically charged activity, which requires more exploration. And the fifth area is foundations maintain this more like long-term relationships with companies or nonprofit organizations through this or through public-private partnerships around data. Again, this also has it's not free from challenges in establishing and maintaining this collaborations. So, in other words, foundations are increasingly recognizing their potential to contribute to data philanthropy, not just by donating their data, but also acting as facilitators or catalysts in the broader ecosystem, and to play a role in making data more open, usable, encouraging the development of data-driven solutions to social problems, and fostering collaborations that bridge the gap between public and private sectors. They also play these roles. Despite these contributions, there's still ample room for foundations to further tap into these capabilities and resources to enhance the impact through Data Philanthropy. So we are coming to the end of our findings. I just would like to a little bit wrap up the findings as a conclusion here. So our study found that foundations possess this substantial amount of data, and they have the capabilities to analyze data, report, and use this data for strategic decision making. But as Filippo mentioned, the level of sophistication kind of decreases when they are venturing into more advanced disciplines like AI or data science. But this is not a bad news, because given that foundations already have this solid basis in data analysis, there is a significant potential for growth in these areas as well. So we observe foundations on a path or in a trajectory towards this data maturity, becoming increasingly advanced in their data handling and analysis capabilities. So, but again, achieving this, of course, will require further investment, willingness to take risk, and innovative approach to fully harness the potential of AI, data science within their operations. So we can move to recommendations. We have a set of recommendations, both for foundations, but also researchers. So let's first go through the recommendations for foundations. So we believe that based on these findings, foundations should proactively engage with ethical, environmental, and social dimensions of integrating AI and data science into their operations, instead of just avoiding these challenges, hesitating to engage with them. So what we recommend is to start with small-scale pilot projects to experiment with AI and data science. These projects can serve as learning experience and proof of concept. Foundations also need to recognize that advancing in AI and data science requires both skilled personnel, but also the right tools. So please hire experts or train existing staff in data analytics, machine learning, and other disciplines. And of course, as anything, allocate budget and resources, especially for research and development in AI and data projects. And also not only specialized teams, but really invest in training and workshops for all levels of the organization. So there's this kind of literacy across the organizations, and encourage a mindset that is open to experimenting and taking calculated risks. This involves accepting the failures as part of the learning process, creating a safe space for innovation. We also highly recommend foundations to engage in partnerships and networks that allow for sharing of insights, data, methodologies to accelerate shared learning and application of best practices. As part of this, foundations can offer maybe mentorships to smaller foundations or those just beginning their journey with data and AI. And also, last recommendations, please encourage the concept of data philanthropy. There is a big potential there. Organizations can share their data for common goods, of course, under strict ethical guidelines and privacy protections, and support initiatives that bring together diverse organizations to build data and tools and expertise. And the last one, lead by example, of course, in establishing and advocating for high ethical standards in data use. Next slide, please. So as we mentioned, our research was kind of exploratory, providing a preliminary overview of AI and data science in philanthropy. So we were able to only maybe scratch the surface of its potential and challenges. So the future studies have the opportunity maybe to explore many aspects with a greater depth, building on our initial findings. So we also imagine that the picture will be much different even in 1 year time, because things are changing so fast when it comes to technology and data. So our suggestions for future research, the studies can look at what makes foundations ready for AI and data science, including leadership, digital literacy, IT infrastructure, but also other factors. As mentioned in the chat, maybe financial capabilities. Investigate how foundations use AI and data science for grant making, evaluation, or addressing specific challenges like climate change, more like thematic areas, and highlight examples of innovative approaches and outcomes. And future research, again, can explore foundations' efforts to promote more ethical use of AI and initiatives to bridge this digital divide. Or studies can examine the practice around data governance within foundations and the challenges and opportunities for collaborative data platforms. And the last thing, maybe future research can identify and assess emerging technologies that could impact philanthropy, such as quantum computing or blockchain, and they consider the potential benefits and ethical considerations for the sector. So before we open the floor for questions and answers, I would like to look at Filippo, if Filippo also has some recommendations, suggestions for peer organizations or researchers. Would you like to come in?
Yes, thank you, Sevda. Well, I think that the recommendations and the suggestion are absolutely great. Just one consideration before the questions is that it's very fascinating that the data spectrum in philanthropic foundation is very unique. It's not only a matter of internal analysis, it's not only a matter of data science, it's not only a matter of data philanthropy. There is a unique mix of different kind of domains, challenges and experience and opportunities that are absolutely typical of a philanthropic foundation. So this thing, together with the idea of sharing knowledge and developing a community, is absolutely crucial. Every foundation has, and we have seen this kind of example during the final review of the report. Every foundation has its own personal experience with the data, with very specific projects that are really unique, but at the same time can be a benchmark and an opportunity for others' foundations. So from one side, there is, even if, as we saw, the foundation are in movement in the development of their maturity in the field of data, but at the same time, they have already a lot of experience that is very specific of the philanthropic sector. And so it's absolutely crucial to share knowledge, to find a way to promote dialogue among foundations and to replicate the good practices and so on. So in the report, you will find a lot of additional reflections and opportunities. From my side, by my side, I think this is one of the most important elements. So a very a sector that is working on this field, and a great opportunity of knowledge sharing.
Thank you very much to you all, but also to my co-presenters and co-authors, Sevda and Filippo. I will stop actually sharing the screen so that we can see each other briefly. So we now would like to invite you for the Q&A part of the event today. This can be either by raising your hand or also writing in the chat if you would prefer to write it down. But we welcome to hear any of your thoughts, reflections, and yeah, please go ahead. I'm also checking chat to see if there's any questions. James, I see your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Daniel, thanks so much. Sevda, Filippo, that was really great and good piece of work and really well presented. I just want to pick up on something that came up in the chat. Ricardo from Portugal suggested that perhaps there was a correlation between data maturity and budgets, and I guess that probably is the case. But wouldn't it be really interesting if we could explore how data can actually be used in a way to save cost? People are expensive, and all of that data gathering and analysis and so on, when it's conducted by people, is a very expensive operation. So how can data actually be used in a way that reduces costs within an organization? And I'm particularly interested in then this data collaboration and examples of, say, 360 giving in the UK or common platforms. And I wonder, with the sample that you had, because of the scale of organizations, are they beyond collaboration? Are they sort of so big in themselves that they don't need to? That they're big data houses in themselves? And I'd really like to get from you your perspective on that from the research, and where you see the potential is to engage with those that maybe don't have the budgets that those organizations that were in the research do have.
Who would like to take this first?
Maybe I can come in, and then Filippo can complement it. We see that there is an increasing collaboration among foundations when it comes to creating these platforms or kind of supporting these platforms. We mentioned one example, like data tanks, that is supported by 4 foundations. And also in other countries, we also see now that some platforms are being created. It's not necessarily like platforms like 360 Giving that are focusing on the grants from foundations, but more like when it comes to social indicators. I think it's easier, much easier to collaborate, to bring pieces together. But recently at European level, we haven't seen any development, anything like 360 Giving at European level. But yeah, and also kind of hiring stuff together, or tapping into external resources. These are also kind of ways foundations now supporting the development of ecosystem, which is becoming more common. Filippo, do you want to complement?
Yes, I can say something about the topic about the use of data for saving costs, improving performance. This is absolutely a great point, because if we think about the profit sector, there is a domain of data called data monetization or infonomics. There are some experts that are highlighting the importance to relate the use of the data. Obviously, we are talking about profit sectors, so to the increase of the profit and the reduction of the costs. Obviously, we are a philanthropic foundation, so the topic of the profit is a little bit different. But the idea to keep in mind that somehow what we are doing with the data must have some kind of economic impact, at least in terms of reducing costs, for instance, in processes, in foundations, improving the activities, and so reducing some kind of cost is absolutely important, because there is always a point in which you have to justify the budget for a specific data project. And so one of the most important reason is to save cost or something like that. So it's absolutely very important. It's not so frequent so far, this kind of mindset, but it's absolutely relevant.
Thank you both. And I see we only have a few minutes left. So I think someone has their hand raised. I think it's Ricardo, but correct me if I've got your name wrong, and then we'll go to Olivia in the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, for us, it's very important. I mean, we're really working towards external information mostly. We're trying to do some partnerships with observatories. There are a lot of them, and they already work with it. I just wanted to talk about something that it was in the end of the talk that you guys talked, and I loved it. I pointed out it was called data donation. which for me, I think it's beautiful. I think that one way that maybe it would work, and also Maria Gutierrez was talking about it in the chat. Something that I think it would be very interesting. Now, of course, I think we're talking mostly about grant making foundations. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I think that probably that's the most the majority of them that are already into data warehouses. I think that's probably grant making foundations. But it would be very interesting to share insights from that data regarding what are the main factors of success depending of the activities that the foundations do. Either it's cultural, either social, research, health, whatever. But maybe it would if we could create some data best practice insights, that I think that's because of course, I mean, we cannot ask for medium size or even small size foundations to be able to have data warehouses or to have that data roadmap, at least for now. Maybe in the early future will be cheaper to develop that in terms of human resource and everything. But yeah, for me, it would be I would like to propose to philea and of course to everyone that maybe we can try to have the dream of not only a one business BI, but to have a philanthropic BI. And sometimes the easiest thing would be to share the insights from those foundations that have that information, those data warehouses. Where do they see the insights from that data? It's just a suggestion, but I think that, yeah, I think data is here to stay. And I mean, first we talked internet, then we talked climate, but AI is here. It's one of the buzzwords that's not going anywhere. It's going to be easier to use, and well, Europe is trying to regulate it, but I have honestly, I have my doubts about that. But yeah, I think that's a path with no return.
Thank you so much for the suggestion. In fact, there is a new platform created in Australia called Data for Philanthropy. Now we are also exploring with them because they did what they did is definitely what you are describing. So they are sharing lots of tools, different resources, ideas that foundations are using, you know, for managing, generating, sharing data. And they're also inviting I don't know if Stefan is here now in the crowd, but he can also come in and share maybe, or we can put the link in the chat. It's an open platform, even though it's created in Austria. We are, as the European partners, also invited to share all the resources there. So there are already some spaces being created, which gives us some hope about sharing these resources. But we will definitely keep in mind to create more space for these best practices.
Septa, since it's with you, we'll hand over to you for closing, and Olivia will make sure to follow up your question after the event. I took good note of it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to express our gratitude to everyone who has been part of the study. So the launch of our study on data work, AI, and data philanthropy and foundations for us marks an important moment in understanding the state of data in philanthropy. And we are so grateful to, first of all, Compagnia di São Paulo, especially to Filippo Candela for being such a wonderful research partner, and to all organizations that participated in this study, and to each of you who joined us today. So yeah, this publication now is available for download, as I shared the link in the chat. So we encourage you to explore the findings, share it with your colleagues, and use it as a resource maybe to inspire further discussions and action. And even the high level of engagement today's webinar is a clear indication of the collective enthusiasm and commitment for this stream of work. So we are very excited to continue this collaboration around, especially through our data science group and with forthcoming studies. So this is just the beginning. So if you have any other ideas or questions, feel free to reach to us. And thank you once again to everyone who participated today, and have a nice rest of the day.